Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast.
So before we get to your emails and comments, which we love to dig into and dig in deep on Friday and after the show, a couple of things. Sam, I meant to mention this week regarding binges and things that we love watching, which we always like sharing with you here. You were right.
About
The Vegas, the Story of Sin City documentary. I thought we had seasons of it, Murph. And then you were like, I think it's only like 4 episodes. You told us that this week, and we went home one night and watched it. And it was the last one.
Well, I mean, I figured it had to be because you get to season 3 and they're talking about the 90s already. Not that much left, you know?
I think it was 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah, okay. I've noticed,
so sad.
Netflix does this. A couple of them do it when it's like one of these limited series.
Yeah.
Some of them will put season 1, episode 1, even though there's no seasons. I don't know why they do that.
Do they do that because possibly once they put it together, they're hoping it gets picked up for more?
I mean, I
don't
think
know.
it's to be consistent with everything else. Everything is defined as a season.
Okay.
And if it's only one season, that's what it is.
Either way, I loved it. I would have wanted more. You know, it's called Vegas, the Story of Sin City. It was on, was it Hulu? I can't even remember.
It was on Max.
Thank you. It was on Max, and it was like 4 or 5 episodes at the most, and it was fantastic. But yeah, it ended with Celine at Caesar's Palace.
Yeah.
Okay. But I also had forgotten about all the wedding stuff that you can get married in Vegas. You forget about these things. There's so much to know about that city.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, and, the 3 of us have been working together for a long time, so we've been together, doing what we do every day for the better part of 25 years. So I was aware, obviously, when they brought Celine Dion and they built the big Coliseum for her at Caesar's Palace just for her. I guess I'd forgotten that, but what I did forget is like how many years and how successful she really was with that, And it was just like that was an epic rebirth for her in Vegas.
Countless people and testimonies of people who weren't even really Celine fans who went to that show and left there going, "Oh wow, that's the best performance I've ever seen, or the best show I've ever seen."
Yeah.
In Vegas, that's what they're hoping for.
Yeah.
That they give you the best sort of show you've ever seen.
It's not just going to a concert because there's other stuff going on around the performer.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted you to know.
And Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, they talked about how, when they went because entertainers were very expensive for these casinos to hire, that they started doing these show productions, which cost a lot of money also, but I guess not as much as paying one performer. But Cirque du Soleil really did bring it to a whole different level. And when we saw that part, it reminded me of Jodi and I going to see the Beatles' Love Show, which was just mind-blowing. The acrobatics are better than anything you've ever seen in any circus anywhere.
And I have heard that O is still the best one they ever did. As far as if you're a Cirque du Soleil person and you love that, O was the best one to ever see. And I want to say that one was also at Caesars or Bellagio.
It was the Bellagio, yeah.
Anyway, we enjoyed that. It was only 4 or 5 episodes, but if you're looking for something to binge, we loved it. Also, today's the day, May 31st, that the Jim Henson documentary landed on Disney Plus. It's called Jim Henson Idea Man, and it's produced by Ron Howard.
Oh.
I'm assuming you might be watching that.
That's going to make it great for so many reasons.
This weekend, you might watch that one.
Definitely, yeah.
Apparently, it gets really real. Things about the man we never knew. How his dream of creating the Muppets and all that he did, how it caused problems in his personal life.
Yeah.
And everything, all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, you know what makes documentaries so good today, and I guess I should say really over the last 10 to 15 years, is it's storytelling now. It used to be that documentaries were very much done on a news type presentation, right? And so they kind of had this reputation of being stiff and boring, informational, but not very entertaining.
Just facts.
Right. But the storytelling now is really just, it puts you there. That's why the Vegas, it was so clip heavy with things from the different eras that they were featuring. You really got an understanding for what the story was that they were telling.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you've ever been to Vegas, I don't mean to keep going back to this one, but if you've ever been there, there's something in every episode that meant something to you. It's like, oh, we went there. Oh, I didn't know that's where the dunes used to be, or, all of that.
Yeah.
You learn those things. All right, shall we go into the email and comments from murphysamandjodi.com and our Instagram and Facebook page? Boy, did you love to tell us, and we love hearing the stories of how you named your children, how you chose the name, what were the reasons behind it. It's one of the biggest decisions and most personal decisions that you ever make. And when you are expecting a child and you have that conversation, and maybe you know, maybe you don't know, we just love hearing about it. Crystal sent this in. Originally, we were going to name our daughter Lydia because one of my favorite cartoons as a child was Beetlejuice.
That's a beautiful name, too.
But she was so active all the time when I was pregnant. Lydia did not fit such an energetic personality, so we changed it. She's Eleanor and goes by Ella from my favorite children's novel, Ella Enchanted. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
Both my daughter and the character fight for what is best for themselves and break down barriers in their own way. So cool, Crystal.
What's funny is Lydia's back this year with Beetlejuice too.
That's a good name. You don't hear that name very often. Nora sent this in. Hi, Nora. I love her. She said, my son's name, Corey, was inspired by Corey Hart. He was a
singer.
Pop star in the 80s. The first time I'd ever heard the name Corey, and I fell in love with it. Isn't that cool to admit? You know, I have to admit, too, that I loved the name Taylor because of Taylor Dane. We talked about that.
So does Corey wear sunglasses at night?
I'm sure he's never been asked that.
In the 80s also, wasn't that when Corey, what's the actor name?
Feldman and Haim.
And Haim, right,
the Coreys.
exactly. Yeah.
The Coreys in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Courtney sent this in. Zach, named after Zach Hansen. I was in 7th grade when they hit it big. I was obsessed. Swore I'd name my first son Zach. Well, my Zach will be 14 in a month.
Wow. Bop.
That's cool. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
I haven't heard the Hansen name in a while either, but they were,
You know that last name being Hansen, but Hansen's a good name for a first name, too.
Yeah.
I kind of like that when somebody takes a last name, and I like that. Okay, this comes from Carol. When our daughter was born, we did not have a name for her, and the nurses said she cannot go home until she's named. It happened to be a Clint Eastwood marathon weekend, and my husband is a big fan of his, and the outlaw Josie Wales came on. Immediately, my husband said, we have to name her, spell it differently, Josie Dawn. Josie is how they spelled it.
Yeah.
Not until 21 years later did we realize the reason that Clint Eastwood Marathon was on that day, because that was his birthday. And so also ended up being our daughter's birthday, Josie Dawn.
Well, that's kind of cool.
I hope that Josie Dawn likes her name.
Yeah.
That's also when you are pregnant, expecting a child, and you're making that decision to name a child, know this. As much as you love it, as much as you dedicate yourself to it and have your reasons, a kid is a different animal, a different person than you. There's going to be a time in their childhood that they don't like their name. And it might hurt you a little bit. And then hopefully they can come around to liking it.
Well, the thing about Josie Dawn is it sounds like those are two beautiful names, but if you use them together, she's in trouble. You know what I'm saying? If you're calling her by both names, it sounds like she could be in trouble.
Or she's down home country girl.
Yeah, I guess with Clint Eastwood, she's lucky it wasn't Smith or Wesson.
How about Clint? Cool name. Anyway, Terry says...
I don't know that I've ever known a girl named Clint.
I know, but it's cool.
Yeah.
Terry says, no family name, famous name here. I drew my first child's name out of a bowl.
Ooh.
And when she was a freshman in high school, in her English class, she had to write a paper on how she got her name. I love that teacher trick. Yes, the teacher called me to see if the story was true, and she got an A. Yay.
Wow.
That's different.
Yeah.
Paula sent this in. I love the Tar Heels and Michael Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
So when I was pregnant, I found out I was having a girl, not a boy. Her name became Jordan Elizabeth.
Aha.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's a very cool name.
Yeah.
I love the stories. Vicky sent this in. 1997, Dante's Peak was a movie. So, of course, I named my son Dante. Dante. That's a cool name, too.
Yep.
You don't have to have a cool name. Just, I think that all kids should know the story behind their name.
Yeah.
They should know why you chose it. When we were living in our first house together, Murph, and we had our neighbors next door, and Taylor and Phoebe were little. And you remember I'm talking about Marsden and Jennifer?
Oh, yeah.
And they had their first child, and they named him Henry.
Yeah.
And it was a family name, and there weren't many Henry baby boys around at that time. And I thought, that's so cool to honor. It was a family thing. And do you know, in the years after, we kept hearing about little Henrys all over the place.
Yeah.
What's old becomes new again, often.
So who were you named after?
I wasn't named after anyone, me. My dad loved the name Jodi, and I was going to be Jodi, whether I was a boy or a girl.
Just a Y or an I?
That's correct. He liked it that much, which when I was a little girl, and as soon as I heard that, I liked it.
My dad's name is Sam.
Yes, Sam.
My grandpa's name is Sam.
Yeah. Your oldest son is?
Sam.
Exactly.
He's got a different middle name. But then, doing my genealogy, there's a lot of Sams and on my dad's side of the family in the past because we came from England and all that. So there's Samuels everywhere.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's a good family
Well,
name.
Sam and I both have the same thing because we're both thirds. So it just that namesake was easy, to do. But some of my favorite ones, honestly, are my sister Jackie, her actual name is Jacqueline.
Yeah.
She was named after Jacqueline Kennedy.
Oh, cool.
Because my mom and dad were huge fans of the Kennedys, and so that's who she was named after. And then my brother, who's James Duke, I always thought the Duke thing was like a John Wayne thing, but it's not. There was a friend of theirs. His name was Duke Bardwell that they went to high school with. And they named, that's where the Duke
Super
name
cool.
came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I love in casual passing conversation when you see somebody with a unique name on their name tag, just like that. Well, remember there was she was a nurse tech one day. Her name was Asia. Remember me telling you that story? And I. Of course, I'm the goofball saying, that's funny. That's the name of an album from the 70s. And she's like, yeah, that's who my dad named me after. It's by the group Steely Dan. The name of the album is Aja, and AJA, and that's the things that come from pop culture. They are cool because they mean something to you as a parent, right? Yeah,
it's a one decision. You get to make that decision. Everything else about your kid is your kid is an individual, and they're going to be who they're going to be.
Yeah,
and you need to love them however they are, but you do pick the name. I was leaving a salon one day. And the owner, my hairdresser was introducing me to someone who was like a manager or owner. And he said, this is Jodi. Jodi, I want you to meet Jovi. And I was like, excuse me? Jovi, Jovi? And she said, yeah, my mom was a huge Bon Jovi fan. She's a young girl. And I was like, I love your name. I need your name. Can I have your name? It was just cute and cool. Thank you for jumping in with us anytime. We love hearing from you on Instagram and Facebook. Keep it coming.
Missed any part of the show? Get it all on the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast.